So, Clay, here we are at the final short trek of Season 2, if you want to call these things a season. It's Children of Mars that we're going to be talking about, but Merry Christmas, I guess, to everybody here. It feels like, we were talking about this before we started recording, but it feels like it's been a very long time since we did a Star Trek, even though it's probably been 6 days or something like that, but a lifetime in recording terms.
Yes, I feel currently like a dead body, and I probably sound like one too.
Partied a little too hard to bring about the 2020?
Yeah, you know, I feel like I wanted to come back to the podcast really sounding like a rock and shock DJ. So I'm just going to really lead into it, guys, and it's going to be Star Trek in the morning with Clay and Wes from now on.
You sound a little bit like Randy Savage, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. I don't know what it is about those guys, but all of their voices eventually end up in that register.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I apologize in advance for how this is going to sound. I have finally understood what it is to be down with the sickness.
Yeah. Ooh, So let's.
I think. I believe that's just him trying to clear his voice at the beginning of the song.
Let's not waste any more time. Let's kick off 2020 or something similar to it by talking about Children of Mars. We're going to play some music, and then we'll be back.
Accessing library computer data.
The world doesn't always adhere to logic. And sometimes when you're lost, you're found.
As I said at the top, this is the 6th and final of the 2nd season of these things called Short Treks. It's called Children of Mars. It first aired on January 9th, 2020. Written by Kirsten Bayer, Alex Kurtzman, and Jenny Lumet. Directed by Mark Pellington. In this episode, 12-year-old classmates Kima and Lil find themselves at odds with each other on a day that will change their lives forever. It's the lead into Star Trek Picard. This is the direct connection. Some might say it's an extended trailer for Star Trek Picard. But what about you, Clay? What do you say about this one?
Well, the first thing that struck me about it, I thought the story itself was nice. It felt like a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like they do this shit every year during the Super Bowl where they take an overdramatic song and then take an extended version of a commercial to tell this story that ends up being about sharing a Budweiser or something.
Yeah. Budweiser should be the advertisements on these little view screens that they've got all over the place.
Like the combination of the arguing kids and the use of the Peter Gabriel version of Heroes.
The majestic Clydesdales walking around in the background, yeah.
Like that version of Heroes is great, but I feel like there should be some sort of like glass you have to break over when it's appropriate to use it.
Do you like that version, actually? You like that?
I think it's good for, I think it's a good dramatic version of it. Because it kind of takes the song and kind of recontextualizes it in a more dramatic way. Well, I mean, it's not for everybody, but I think there are it feels tailor-made for commercials and movie trailers. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's I actually don't know if it's a good cover, because while I'm all for recontextualizing the meaning of a song, I don't know if you can really recontextualize the meaning of Heroes in a lot of, unless you're just saying that it's ironically singing what the lyrics of Heroes are. It feels like it's a pretty straightforward song in terms of what the level of emotion is that you're supposed to feel for it. The lyrics to me are a very celebratory thing, which makes its inclusion in this episode strange to me. It doesn't feel like it's appropriate.
No, I couldn't understand the use of it at all.
Okay, but you just like the version. You like the Gabriel-styled version of the song itself on its own.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's appropriately used here. No.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, it felt kind of out of place, and I don't know what the. I guess they can be heroes because they put aside their differences.
But they're really far from heroes by the end of this. Like, no one's a hero here. Yeah.
I don't know. It was kind of weird, and also the other thing that bugged me about it is hearing them talk about Mars on Star Trek feels really weird.
Mm-hmm. It's too close to home, literally.
Yeah, they never talk about planets in our solar system on Star Trek. It's like if it's always Earth, it's never Mars. They never say the moon. You know, it's Star Trek has always, I feel like they almost made a conscious choice when they started the concept of the show not to mention planets people have heard of because it sounds too hack sci-fi.
Yeah.
You know, because like it's like, oh, people are colonizing Mars and miners and shit. It's like, yeah, everybody does that.
But I guess there's a level of ignorance there because I didn't realize you were going to talk about that, but I was looking at star names on Wikipedia recently, and a lot of the names of planets and systems they use in Star Trek are real stars. It's just that we don't acknowledge them.
Nobody ever heard
yet.
of them, though.
Yeah,
nobody knows that shit.
Yeah, right.
It's like what they hardly ever say the ones you have heard of, like
Right.
Alpha Centauri or like Andromeda or some shit like that.
They get a lot of use out of Rigel. Rigel is always a big one, and Rigel's a real star. Yeah,
because no one knows what that one is other than the fact that Kang and Kodos from The Simpsons are from Rigel 4. But it just, like, overall, it didn't feel Star Trek-y to me other than the fact that Picard was in it.
Sure.
Like everything else about it felt like pretty boilerplate sci-fi story. Like even the rogue synths, bombing the mining complex on Mars.
Shipbuilding. It's the Utopia Planitia shipyards.
Yeah, whatever it is. It just, I don't know. It felt kind of stock to me, and it almost. Once that thing started, it almost felt kind of like a Rick and Morty episode a little bit. But yeah, and I mean, showing Picard's face and having him react is like devastating. I don't know.
Not even video of him. It's just an image, a still image of his face. Yeah.
It was a little weird. Like again, it's like a nice little short about people with differences coming together or whatever, but it's, I don't know, is it necessary?
I think it's I think the story in and of itself is not, it's like a step above Ask Not. It's like the bare minimum that you can have as a story, really, where they don't show you anything that's going on, like why these girls have this problem. Not that you need to explain what they're at odds with each other with, but it's really just girls have a problem, and then all of their parents are killed, and then they become friends because they have something to bond over at that point, or there's something greater that you have to fight against, or, we could be heroes by standing together and holding hands.
Sure.
Like the story itself is no great shakes. My major takeaway from this, especially because it's so explicitly tied into Picard in the upcoming Picard series, is that it looks like Picard is going to continue what you're talking about here, which is kind of an aesthetic to the new Star Trek series that I don't think I personally like, and I think I could argue isn't actually very good in a lot of ways. Like this short in particular, with the use of heroes, the Gabriel version, it's like Kurtzman's lust for melodrama overpowers a lot of this new stuff. He loves very dramatic music over very dramatic images of people like crying or dramatically turning their heads towards things. And I think that his problem as a showrunner is that he confuses that for actual story in a lot of sense. Like he thinks that just because you do this, you should be able to feel emotion about things.
Sure. That's
been a problem with Discovery, and I think it's the same problem here. It just feels like the style that they choose to tell their stories in feels like it's a lot of luster without much soul to it underneath, and I just wish it was a little bit more recalibrated in that way.
How would you recalibrate this one?
I think you just like because my takeaway is that like this event where these rogue Data characters are going to be bombing Mars basically is going to be, it seems like that's going to be key to Picard's story in the next series. So
when I saw rogue synths, I thought like, whoa, maybe Rick Wakeman finally radicalized himself.
just a lot of 80s music videos being bombed onto Mars. I just think that the event, like, it's almost distracting to have these girls kind of come together, really, because it feels like the event is something that's so shocking or devastating that I almost wish it was more just like a natural slice of life of like two friends that's going to school together. And you're almost wondering like, what's the point of this? It's just like a kind of friendship that they're showing on screen. And then it becomes this thing of like, oh, this attack has happened and everything has kind of changed. Or you can show like an idyllic Starfleet Academy lifestyle then paired off against these androids that are bombing the fuck out of your planet. I just feel that I just feel that it doesn't really. I don't really understand how this story, if it's even supposed to tie into Picard in a way that feeds into how you're supposed to feel about things, because the conflict between the girls is so weak. Like it's not really delved into, or not really interesting, I guess, in any way other than that they're just having a disagreement with each other. It feels kind of trite, I suppose, would be the problem.
Yeah, that's fair. It's having no context whatsoever for the attack at the end feels difficult to square, other than the fact that obviously it's a bad thing.
With the little clues that it happens on the anniversary of First Contact Day, they say rogue
Right.
synths, things like that. Like what's the point of this episode? Like, this is really just an extended trailer for Picard. It's a trailer in the sense that it doesn't really have much meat to anything that's going on. It's just supposed to get you excited for what's to come.
Yeah, it's kind of like, do you remember that commercial they did for Arkham Origins, the Batman video game, a few years ago, where it was like a video game trailer of Bruce Wayne as a child and his parents getting killed and then him training. And like they kept cutting back to this like identical shot through time of him, asserting himself and stealing himself to do X, Y, and Z. And it ends with him like, putting on the Batman hood and punching Deathstroke in the face or something.
Yeah, right.
It felt kind of like that, where it's like it's more of like an emotional trailer. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Like, I feel like the story that they're telling here, anything could have happened at the end of that, and you would have gotten the same result. Like it doesn't, it doesn't feel like it's.
The principal slips and falls down the stairs and breaks his neck, and the girls like just sit there and hold
and they kind of look at each other and chuckle and hold hands. I don't know.
Yeah,
it felt kind of like that, where it felt the actual lead into Picard felt a little disposable to me.
Yeah. What do you
or like that? Excuse me, sorry. Like, what if instead they go back to their lockers and they both open their lockers and they have like glamour shots of Picard in their locker, and then they're like, you, me, I think we just became best friends.
I love him too. He's fantastic. Yeah, I would agree. It doesn't. It functions basically as a story. I can't criticize this like I can criticize Ask Not by saying like what was going on here. Like I fully understand what was going on to the point where it doesn't feel like there's almost not enough meat on its bones for 8 minutes of stuff, because the stuff that happens in the school is pretty trite and simple, like girls tripping each other. And
it's like 80% of it is in slow motion. So
I
don't think they literally did have enough for 8 minutes.
But it's also it continues this thing that's another part of the aesthetic of this series, where 12-year-old girls are throwing down like they're Rocky and Apollo in Rocky 1, basically. It's like, they're throwing haymakers, and it's like, I don't expect Star Trek to be real, but has anyone ever seen young girls fight? Like, this is not the way that they fight each other. It just takes you out of it a little bit. It makes you realize how artificial a lot of the setting is.
It's the future. You don't know how little girls fight in the future. Maybe they all train as, kickboxers from
Jedi warriors slamming each other into the lockers and stuff like that. It's that kind of an aesthetic that I'm not really super crazy about. The other thing that kind of struck me is that maybe this is not going to be fair, because you don't know how much time they have to do these things in the actual Picard series that's coming up. You don't know how much time it takes, but I feel like the style of ships are strange in terms of where you're supposed to be in the timeline.
To me, they felt stock sci-fi to me. Those ships that attack Mars, I mean, they weren't like anything that I had seen, but I'm not saying that like in a positive way. It just felt like a fairly stock sci-fi ship. Yeah,
and the ships that are being constructed at the shipyards just feel very stock standard. Very, very like they're a little bit too angular for this era of Star Trek, the way that I think. Like, when I think of what Picard era of Star Trek was, like, all the ships are kind of graceful looking. Sure. And it's an interesting aesthetic change that they've made to make them boxier, and they look more Discovery era than they do anything else.
all the Picard era ships look like, the 90s Camaro.
Yeah.
That apparently they designed in like a wind tunnel or something. So it's like a lot of kind of like smooth aerodynamic looking sloping shapes and stuff.
Yes.
See, not to be that guy again, because whatever, we're 3 seasons into Discovery. Clearly they've made their choice. But what? Just set it. This looks exactly like Discovery. Set Discovery in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have this problem then. Then you go into this going like, oh, I like how they kept the ships consistent with how they look in Discovery. It's, I don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that canon and all that kind of stuff is fairly, fluid with me. But like, it's just such an easy fix to a lot of structural problems.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, for this one, I don't particularly care how they design the ships, but on the level of me, I kind of feel like the CGI in The Irishman is kind of similar to this. It's like, I understand what you're doing, but I don't think you're doing it well enough where I'm not distracted by what you've done.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
I look at this and I go, what era are we supposed to be in? Like, the ships don't look right for what kind of era that we're supposed to be in. If this was Discovery's time, I'd be like, oh, this is a story from the past. But this is 20 years after TNG or something like that. It's whatever years after TNG. So seeing things look different there while still having the same characters feels a little bit, it takes me out of it, I suppose. I can't get fully absorbed by the story that they're telling.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't even realize that it was supposed to be the future until Picard showed up on the screen.
Right, because it looks very Discovery-esque, yeah. Yeah,
I don't know if that's intentional or not, because it might be, but I'm honestly not sure. Like, I don't know if that was supposed to be a twist at the end where it's like, oh shit, it's Picard,
Yeah.
Because, everything, the aesthetic of everything feels like Discovery. They continue doing that thing where it's like, in the future, every living or communal space is heavily over-designed and made out of concrete. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, those are all, I assume, real places, which is fine. But they clearly have an aesthetic that they're going for that they've continued over from there.
Not a lot of decoration on the walls of any place that you ever go to. It's just bare walls with CGI hologram view screens on.
Where are all the photographs with the holofoil frames on them?
They do have a lot of photographs in the girls' apartments as they open this. I noticed there were actual Kodak like pictures hanging on the walls, which is a nice.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I don't think there's really much else to say about this. I view it as an extended trailer for Picard. It wasn't the worst of these things, but it also didn't knock my socks off. So I guess we can just wrap it up by how do you feel about Picard at this point? Not the character, but the series that's coming in 2 weeks.
I haven't really done much digging into more promotional stuff that's been coming out. I didn't read that Variety interview. I haven't really I watched the most recent trailer, but that's about it. I'm the same. I'm optimistic, but I'm kind of not holding my breath on it. But I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
I'm starting to become looking forward to it more, I suppose. Like, I'm starting to get excited as it's approaching, I guess. I'm still going to stay relatively grounded, but I am excited for the series to start just because it's a new Star Trek series that I'm actually, I feel like there's potential in where they're going to go with the setting and the idea. Like, I feel like what I know about the plot seems like it has a lot of potential, but that doesn't mean that it'll be executed well. But I am starting to get a little bit excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, I was with the last trailer once Riker showed up, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
And it looks like it was only one quick clip in I think the last short trailer, but did they dial back the Data's face CGI?
They've finished it. They've done additional work on it, and he looks more like Brent Spiner at this point. So they either de-CGI'd him or they did better work on the CGI to make it look more natural. Okay, because the thing that I saw, I couldn't tell if it was they had finished doing the work or they just said, fuck it, and let him just be Brent Spiner. They might have said just fuck it and let Data look old, I guess, because he does look natural like that. But I have kind of a contrary take to that. The more I see fake-looking Data, the more I like him in a lot of ways. Like I see. I know what you mean. Yeah. Like his, I think it's important for Data to not just act unhuman, but I like to have a little bit of an uncanny valley thing with Data, where you look at him and you're like, this is not a real person, but then have the problem with the character be that his soul, for lack of a better word, is human, but he doesn't look or act that way, really.
Right.
And I think that aids the character. So when they just show you old Brent Spiner with silver face makeup on, it's kind of like, I liked him when he looked a little bit weirder. Like I felt that was an appropriate update where I could put that as headcanon into that's how he looks in TNG's universe. They just didn't have the makeup to portray it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. I guess it all depends on what you're trying to do, what they are trying to do with the effect, right? Like if they're just trying to make him look young, then it feels really weird. But if they are trying to do that, where they're trying to give a bit more of an artificial sheen to him, I think it could take a little bit getting used to. But I agree. I think that's probably the right way to do it. I would hope there was a voice in that room who was like, what if instead of trying to just make him look young, we try to make him look more fake? So it's not, so you don't get caught in that weird, that Irishman thing where it's like, this sort of works, but not really.
Right. How old are they supposed to be? Right. You're not thinking about it.
Speaking of, did you see that clip of a guy took, or girl, I don't know who it was, took footage from The Irishman and ran free deepfake technology over it?
No.
And it looks, oh my God, it looks 100% better. And it's one of those really depressing things where it's like Netflix or whoever spent $200 million on this movie trying to make 75-year-old Robert De Niro look like he's 55, but with, a better hairline. And this guy whoever this was, took a free deepfake software and took 7 days and redid like maybe 5 to 6 minutes of the movie, and it looks unbelievable.
But what did he do to them?
I don't know what the software or how it works.
But how do they look? Like what's the difference?
They look like young versions of the actors.
Oh, so he
like
just amplified. He didn't de-age them or something like that. He just amplified. He made the effect look better.
Yeah, what he did was, I assume what he did is he ran footage of young Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci and Al Pacino through whatever the software is and mapped that face onto the Irishman face.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it looks fantastic. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if if the studios are pushing it back against this technology because of the horrifying implications of it, because it is pretty horrifying when you see what people can do with it. But I would be like, man, next time if you could do like a small budget movie and have this technology work if you've got the right combination of things,
Yeah. I guess we're done with Star Trek Picard's Children of Mars, the lead-in to this one. I'm a fairly stock standard episode, short trek, I guess. It didn't get me tremendously excited. It didn't offend me like it did Ask Not did.
Which one was that? I can never remember.
Ask Not is the one where Pike and the cadets are in the room screaming regulations at each other.
Yeah.
This I think the second season of these short treks has actually been worse than the first season. The first season felt like they were trying to do something, and this one just generally didn't, is my takeaway from it.
I think what the problem is with the second season of them is they're kind of, you would think this would be a plus, but I feel like they've got too many irons in the fire at the same time. So like instead of the first one where it's like, all right, let's do 5 shorts that sort of flesh out the world of our show.
Of Discovery.
Yeah. And succeed or fail, but have a fairly uniform take on things. This one, it's like, well, you got to do Picard, you got to do Pike, we got to do a cartoon for some reason.
These are more obviously advertisements, I feel, because they're selling each show on its own. Yeah.
Some of them almost feel like, to steal a term from Dave, they feel like fan films almost, where it's like CBS put out the call and 8 different filmmakers came in with 5 shorts.
You could direct the next Doritos ad at the Super Bowl.
You could direct the next Star Trek short. We're not going to pay you and we're not going to credit you, but you could do it.
Exposure. We pay you with exposure.
Yeah. The artist's the most valuable currency in the artist's wallet.
The clarion call of the artist. I guess that's pretty much it for Children of Mars. I would agree. It's kind of a weaker second series of these that felt more like ads, and this one felt fine, but we'll see. It didn't get me more excited for Picard, but it didn't dampen my excitement, I guess, for that series. So we'll see when it comes out. That's it. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, you can support the show at patreon.com/thepenskyfile. It's the best way to do it. A couple $1 a month gets you extra stuff. We also like to thank our Captain tier supporters, Andrew Cherlog, Ben Douglas, Captain Quark, Cardinal Doomsday, Christian Michaels, Christian Pouch, Darth Mosk, David Beardmore, David K, Dwayne Hackett, Eric Johnson, HH28, Yarpy, Jeffrey Koch, Joint Mango, Jordan Cooper, Kevin Reyes, Kyle Barrett, Mad Courier 6, Mad Cutler, Matt Ross, Mike Burnett, Nathan Elliott, Neil Brennan, Nick Sergi, Robert Cummins, Russell Elwood, Samuel Custer, Grim Santo, Sean Spinobi, Tarek Latif, Tom Hiles, Vault 13 Hero, and Will Yates. Thank you very much. I think that's pretty much it. We're going to be back with...
Can you play that Peter Gabriel version of Heroes underneath you saying those names? Because they're the real heroes.
I want to. If only there was an easy way to make the MP3 of these not be more work than the YouTube video. That would be something I would do. But they're definitely going to... Peter Gabriel is definitely a blocker on YouTube. I know that much. Let's see here. I think that's pretty much it.
You keep trying to use Sledgehammer in every video we do.
It's so appropriate. Our fruit fetish is really just coming through strongly on the podcast.
Listen, Clay, this podcast really needs the song Bico in the background, okay?
When I pitched you doing this show full time, I did say you could be king and I could be queen, and forever and ever and ever with the Dolphins. Let's see. I think we're done here. I think I'm going to put up an update video about what to expect in the podcast for the year going forward. So if that hasn't come out yet, you can look forward to that. It definitely hasn't come out yet, so that'll come out soon. That'll give people an update about where the podcast is going to go for the next couple months, what series we're going to be covering, and things like that. Let's see. I guess that's it. Clay, do you have anything you want to say, or should we just wrap it up?
No, I don't think so. We got the Kelvin movies coming up soon, right?
Yes, we have the Kelvin movies. We'll try to get those done before Picard sneaks in. It's only 2 weeks till Picard, which is the shocker, but we do at least have the first and second one, I think, being possible to be done.
Okay, cool.
So the Kelvin movies are coming out. I think that's it. Guys, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.